Genius or freak? All throughout history, really leading edge ideas have been considered freakish, if not sacrilegious, or just crazy, or no, that can't possibly be true. And yet, this is how we move forward in our lives, is that we receive guidance from our intuition about new possibilities. And that's exactly what's going to be highlighted during this transit that begins today. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. On the transit that begins today, the sun moves into the gate 43 and the earth moves into the gate 23. So these two gates create a complete channel. They go from the ajna to the throat center. They're in the knowing circuit. They're part of individual circuitry. Individual circuitry is here to be different. It's here to bring change. It's where the evolutionary impulse of humanity runs through the human design chart. And this channel right here is a really important part of that knowing circuit, because you receive guidance coming in through that 61, the gate of wonder, comes in through the 24 and then meets right there, the 4323. So we're right at the place where we're receiving what's possible from higher guidance, from the creative intelligence of the universe that's coming right in through that channel. And then it wants to be expressed through the throat, through the gate 23. Now, the reason that I started this video with freak or genius is that we colloquially like to call the gate 43 the genius freak gate. Not because it's a characteristic of the information that's coming through. It's more about a description of how other people respond to whatever it is that you're sharing. So if you share it with people who are open-minded, who are curious, who are in a positive state of anticipation and want to hear what it is that you have to say, and you feel like there's some alignment between what you want to share and what they care about, then what you offer can be considered genius. However, if you share with people who are not particularly open-minded, or who disagree with your point of view, or who are really have their heels dug in to what they believe they know what is true, then what you share might be considered freakish. It's the same information. It's the same thing that you're talking about, but depending on the context and the people, it can be received extremely differently. This is a key characteristic of the 4323. So while we're moving into this transit period, one of the things that you want to look for yourself, I would say, have a little notebook with you and just be writing down new potentials, new possibilities, new epiphanies, new insights that are just dropping in for you, right? That are coming right from superconsciousness. And try not to dismiss them. When I talk to people, and I see how much intuition they have, especially if they have a lot of this particular circuit, I'll say to them, do you know how intuitive you are? Do you get downloads? And they'll be like, yeah, I don't. And I'm like, well, what do you do with them? I don't really pay much attention to them. I don't really know what to do with them. They're sometimes they're interesting. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes I don't have any idea what to make of them. And I'm like, you are receiving divine inspiration. You're receiving divine guidance. Please don't just throw it away. Because we haven't been taught in our culture to really honor our intuitive information, to honor the intuitive impulses, right? We've actually been taught to distrust them and to discard them, which is unfortunately what Western science does with things that it doesn't understand. If it can't track it and it can't explain exactly how it works, then it dismisses it, which is unfortunate because there's so much that can't be explained by Western science. And whatever comes in through the 4323 is not going to be explained by Western science. I can pretty much guarantee that. So don't try, right? Don't put whatever those downloads you're getting into that realm where they can be dismissed as freakish, right? If not irrelevant. Instead, Bring them into the realm of possibility. Because what you receive in those downloads isn't necessarily something that you want to go, boom, take action on. They're potentials. They're possibilities. You want to play with them, work with them, kind of lean into them, feel what they feel like for you. Use your human design strategy and authority to explore what they mean for you, right? But you don't necessarily go and get on top of a soapbox and tell everybody about it until you've had a chance to really absorb it and work with it and then integrate it. Because the gate 23 can be called integration. It's called assimilation. I don't really like assimilation because assimilation makes it sound like you take off of all of the parts of you that don't fit into the most mainstream thing and you assimilate with it, right? So not assimilation, but integration, right? Being able to take kind of the gems that you get and then integrate those into your perception and into your consciousness, into your awareness. And that can then lead into a different behavior and different ways of being. But you want to give yourself some time for this because it can also be disruptive. You could be receiving some downloads about things that, kind of direct you to move, for example, or leave a job or begin a relationship or end a relationship or, engage with a certain project or whatever it is. But you want to give it some time to make sure that it's the right time. And I'll give you an example. So I have the 43 defined in my chart, not the 23, but I do have the 43 and I have the 61, a lot of the knowing circuit. I know it well. And I received in meditation at one point a fully formed idea download about a conference for women that I wanted to do. And this was kind of earlier on in my human design journey. And I was like, oh, I got all excited. I figured, well, I got it as a download. I should do it. Right. And I started putting it together. And then I realized like the energy isn't moving. Right. And I kind of tuned in at this point and I was like, is this the right time for me doing this? It's like, my sacral was like, I was like, oh. Turns out it wasn't until 18 months later that I got the inner impulse, do it now, do it now, do it now. But by 18 months later, the character of that conference had changed because it was then I offered it during the pandemic in the fall of 2021. So it was, as of things were winding down, but I got them, actually it wasn't the fall, it was the fall of 2020. And so it was very influenced by both George Floyd being murdered and the response to that, and then also to the pandemic. So there were a lot of things that got put into that conference that were kind of time specific or were different than they would have been if I'd actually put it together 18 months earlier. So I'm just saying that the things that you get through that knowing circuit, it doesn't always mean take it and act on it now. And it doesn't always mean that whatever you're getting is for you to take act on. It could be for other people, or maybe you partner with other people. So you want to give it some space till you get more clarity that you can integrate it in more. But what I love about this is this is where we can have ideas that our minds, our analytical minds, cannot think of, right? Because as powerful as our minds are, they're puny compared to the creative intelligence of the universe, right? Even though it's an expression of that. So that when we can open up and receive different information, different perspectives, it's a powerful thing. And here in our world today, I kind of think we could use that. Because the era that we have been in is ending. There's so many signs. I'm not going to go into all the details. If you want to know more about that, come to Aquarian Activation and Initiation that's happening November 19th, 20th, and 21st. And I'll talk about this more at the end of the video. But if you want to know more about it and all the cycles and all the things that are changing right now, right? We're at the end of an era and we're at the beginning of a new era. And so there's a lot of kind of things happening here and there, right? Certain things are falling away. Certain things are breaking apart. Certain things are, you can kind of get, you're like, oh, it's still working, but it's stale, right? And then there's brand new things that are coming in. And this is what you can get through that 4323. So pay attention and also partner with your friends, your colleagues, your workmates, whoever in your life is open to it, to ask them about what are they receiving. because it could be really cool. Then on Friday, November 15th, we have a super full moon in Taurus. And it's actually, if you want to go and see it, I would say Thursday night, because it's at 1 a.m. Pacific time on the 16th, which is really Thursday night or very, very early on Friday morning. And you can always tell the full moon when the sun is setting and the full moon is rising. That's actually technically the day of the full moon, because the moon and the sun are opposite each other. And we can see this in the human design chart, where the sun is in the 43, which is opposite the 23. And then the moon and the earth are both together in the 23. And then I also learned from astrologers that Uranus is also conjunct the moon in that same location, and the earth in that same location. Now, they're in slightly different gates in human design, because the earth and the moon are in the 23 and Uranus is in the 8, but the gates are right next to each other. Okay. And they're all together in Taurus. So with the astrologers, they're saying that this is a way that Uranus is here to really activate and accentuate that full moon and what's happening there. So full moon in Taurus, full moons are the culmination of the lunar cycle, right? It's where the moon is the brightest. And this is going to be yet another super moon, which is a designation of when it's closer to the earth. And so it appears brighter. But the other thing that we don't talk about as much is that the influence of the moon and the gravitational force of the moon is much stronger when it's closer to the earth. So we get higher tides and lower tides, for example, right? But it also influences our psyches even more strongly. And if we remember, we're somewhere between 70 and 85% water, depending on our age and how hydrated we are and how well we take care of ourselves, right? And we think about the moon's gravitational force, right? It's acting on the waters in our bodies as well. So we have this full supermoon in the gate 23, which is this gate of assimilation or integration, or transmission. I mean, I really think of it as kind of like this container that receives the downloads that are coming here through that knowing circuit like we were just talking about. And then it holds what comes in from that 43 and it kind of drops into that 23, which then can be expressed outwards. But there's a bit of a translation that's happening there, because the 43 isn't necessarily verbal the way that the 23 is. Because the 23 is on the throat, right? And what's on the throat is this is the center for expression, right? And manifestation and activation. So we get these insights that drop in through these first gates, and then they're kind of collected here at the throat in that 23, where they can then be expressed and shared. So here we are in Taurus, which is an earth sign, and Taurans really like things to kind of stay the same. You know, my kid has a Taurus moon and a Taurus rising, and they really like their comfort. They really like things to be kind of predictable, kind of stay the same. They like their home. They like the earth. They like, right? They like things to be steady and strong, right? But kind of predictable and kind of the same. So here we get this moon, which is in Taurus, is in the gate 23, which is all about change and innovation. And then it's conjunct Uranus, who's the god of awakening and the god of sudden change. So we've got a really potent creative tension. My mentor, Karen Curry Parker, would call it a conundrum, right? Because it's these different energies that feel like they could potentially be in conflict with each other. And they could potentially be in conflict with each other, but they also can provide value from their point of view to help stimulate change in the other. And it can go both ways. So this is potentially what's going to be happening with this full moon. And the invitation, I would say, and this is really for this whole transit, is how are you embracing change? How are you embracing the things that are coming to you that might feel really like, well, I never thought about things that way, or I never thought about living my life that way, or I never thought that reality worked in that way. How are you going to respond to that, right? Are you going to allow yourself to be awakened by it, to be brightened by it, to have your awareness expand? Or are you going to resist it and push it away and say, I'm not sure that I really like that? So this is a choice that each one of us has. I think you'll have an easier time if you choose to embrace it, because of course we know the one constant is change. Right after this transit, we have Pluto moving into Aquarius for finally fully moving in, and it's going to be there for 20 years. That's going to happen on November 19th. And I invite you to come to Aquarian Activation and Initiation, which is a 3-day experiment, reflection process, creation process, uplifting and awakening process that we will do together for those 3 days that helps us to open to the possibilities that Pluto in Aquarius is bringing us. And Aquarian energy is all about, yes, it is about sovereignty, personal sovereignty, right? But it's about sovereignty in community. The sovereignty that we've lived with to a large degree when it comes to personal sovereignty has been mired in individualism, which is kind of the shadow side of the more aspirational parts, certainly of the US philosophy that all people are created equal, right? And we're all in this together. And the shadow side of that is that, yeah, we're all created equal and I can do whatever I want. Basically, that's what individualism is like, as long as I'm not, harming somebody, I can do whatever I want, which includes harming animals, harming the ecosystems, right? This whole idea is like, I can own this property. I can do whatever I want with it. I can cut all the trees down on it if I want to, because I own this property. See, that's the shadow of individualism, which is unfortunately really harmful here in the US. So the sovereignty that comes in with Aquarian energy is different from that. It is more about how do we become sovereign beings, which for me, and I wrote a book on this, Feminine Sovereignty, is to build our power within so that we are calm, we are resourced, we are clear, we are confident, we're able to speak our truth without trying to make somebody else agree with us. But we're also able to hear what other people have to say, hear what their truths are, so we can create a shared perspective among us rather than fighting with each other, coming together to communicate, to collaborate, and to work together, right? By hearing each other and being in community as sovereign beings where we recognize the sovereignty of others, but we know that we are in community together. So this is a big part of Aquarian energy as we see that the kind of really big systems that have gotten developed in the last, couple 100, 200, 300 years are expiring, right? Some of them are just starting to collapse of their own weight. They're not working so well anymore. So that's happening. And arising out of that, because Pluto is like Phoenix energy, right? It's like this energy that rises up out of the death of the old. And that's what we have the potential to lean into and to foster and to grow inside of ourselves and to support that in our communities. So if that's something that interests you, I invite you to participate. The link to join us will be here at the end of the video and it'll be down in the description. It's free to participate. I will offer a VIP experience if you want to go deeper with me, but you certainly can get a lot out of those 3 days. And I look forward to being with you then. All right. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.